The safe house had no chandeliers. That was the first thing Lily noticed. Low ceilings, warm light, a kitchen that smelled like someone had actually cooked in it. 2 bedrooms, a lock on the front door that she controlled. Her thumb on the deadbolt, not Evan's code, not a security chief's clearance. Her thumb. She locked it 3 times that first night. Unlocked it. Locked it again. Not because she was afraid someone would get in, because she needed to prove to herself that she could. The medic, her name was Renata, Lily learned, stayed until morning. Not in the room, in the hallway. Quiet, present. The kind of presence Lily hadn't felt in 3 years. Someone nearby who wanted nothing from her. At 6 a.m., Lily sat at the kitchen table with a glass of water she'd poured herself and realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd opened the fridge without asking permission. Quick favor. If you watched part 1 and came back, tap like and subscribe. Because the man in the photograph, the father Lily thought was dead, is about to walk through a door she didn't know existed, and everything she believed about her own life is wrong. The leader arrived at 9 a.m. He knocked. He waited. He didn't enter until Lily opened the door herself. That detail mattered. In Evan's house, people appeared. Doors opened without warning. Privacy was a concept Evan allowed, like a leash with enough slack to forget it was there. Here, the man who dismantled the billionaire's mansion at midnight waited on a porch like a guest. "How's the pain?" he asked. "Less." "The baby?" Heartbeat was strong at 6. They checked. He nodded. Set a folder on the table. Thinner than yesterday's, but heavier somehow. The way things get heavier when they contain the truth instead of evidence. "You have questions," he said. "I have one question," Lily replied. "You said my father is alive." "He is." "You said he disappeared to protect me." "He did." "From what?" The leader sat down across from her. He placed the worn photograph between them, the man in the diner booth, the little girl with Lily's eyes. "Your father's name is Thomas Carter. In 1998, he was a forensic accountant for the Department of Justice. He investigated a network of shell companies used to launder money through real estate development." Lily's hands went still on the glass. "The investigation led to a family called Blackwood." The kitchen got smaller. "Evan's father," Lily whispered. "Richard Blackwood built the family fortune on laundered capital, construction contracts inflated with dirty money, foundations used as fronts, political donations that bought silence. Thomas assembled the case that would have brought it down. Would have. In 2001, a leak inside the DOJ tipped off the Blackwood legal team. Evidence was suppressed, and your father received a threat, not against him, against you. You were 6. Lily's throat tightened. "He entered witness protection, not to hide himself, to hide you. Changed your records, relocated your mother, disappeared so nobody connected to the Blackwood name would ever know Thomas Carter had a daughter." "My mother told me he died." "She was told to tell you that." Lily stared at the photograph. The man's arm around the little girl, the smile, the diner booth with the ripped vinyl seat she suddenly remembered, not as a memory, but as a sensation, sticky, warm, the smell of coffee and pancake syrup. "He watched me," she said, not a question. "From a distance, always. He tracked your school records, your jobs, your address changes. When you started working at the diner in 2019, he had someone nearby. Not surveillance, protection." "The diner," Lily repeated. "That's where I met Evan." The leader's expression didn't change, but his voice dropped half a tone. "Yes." "Evan came into a diner on Route 12 at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday, a billionaire in a roadside diner. I thought it was random." "It wasn't random." Lily's blood went cold. "He was looking for me. He was looking for Thomas Carter's daughter. The Blackwood family never stopped wanting leverage against your father. When Richard died in 2018, Evan inherited the operation and the grudge. He spent months tracing Carter's family tree until he found you. He married me to get to my father. He married you because you were the only pressure point that mattered. A daughter Thomas would come out of hiding for. Lily pressed her hands flat on the table. The glass of water trembled. 3 years, she said. 3 years of marriage. The control, the isolation, Her voice cracked. That was strategy? The cruelty wasn't strategy. The cruelty was who he is. The marriage was strategy. The cruelty was a bonus he gave himself. Lily closed her eyes. Every memory reshuffled. The charity dinners, the locked phone, the way Evan had said, "You're mine," like it was a fact, not a feeling. It had never been about love. It had never even been about hate. She was a key to a lock Evan had been trying to pick since his father died. "Where is my father?" she asked. "Outside." Lily's eyes opened. "He's been outside since 4 a.m., the leader said. He wouldn't come in until you asked. Tap, like if you need to see what happens when a door opens and the person on the other side is someone you buried in your memory 23 years ago. Because Lily stood up, walked to the front door, and opened it. Thomas Carter was 61. He looked older. The kind of age that comes not from years, but from carrying something heavy without ever setting it down. Gray hair cut short, hands in his jacket pockets. Standing at the bottom of the porch steps like he wasn't sure he'd earned the right to climb them. He looked at Lily. Lily looked at him. 23 years collapsed into the distance between the porch and the bottom step. "You're taller than I expected," he said. His voice was rough, like he'd been rehearsing this sentence for 2 decades and it still came out wrong. Lily didn't laugh, didn't cry. She stood in the doorway with her hand on the frame, 4 months pregnant, wearing borrowed clothes, and felt the specific vertigo of looking at a ghost who was breathing. "You left," she said. "I left so they couldn't use you. They used me anyway." Thomas flinched, not dramatically, a small compression around the eyes, the kind of flinch that men who've trained themselves not to react can't fully suppress. "I know," he said. "I watched it happen, and every day I didn't act was the hardest thing I've ever done." "Then why didn't you?" "Because if I surfaced, they'd know the case still existed. They'd know the evidence was still intact. And they'd know you were the reason I'd kept it alive." He paused. "The night I came for you was the night you gave me permission. I didn't give anyone permission. You said the truth out loud, in front of witnesses. That was the trigger, the legal threshold we needed to intervene without compromising 23 years of evidence." Lily stared at him. "You needed me to bleed before you could help me." Thomas didn't deny it. He didn't explain it away. He stood at the bottom of the steps and absorbed the sentence the way a man absorbs a blow he knows he deserves. "Yes," he said, "and I will carry that for the rest of my life." The porch was quiet. A bird sang somewhere. The morning was doing what mornings do, arriving without asking whether anyone was ready. "Come inside," Lily said. Thomas climbed the steps, slowly, not from age, from the weight of the distance he was crossing. 3 steps that contained 23 years. He stopped in front of her, close enough to touch. He didn't. "Can I?" he started. Lily put her arms around him. He held her the way a man holds something he thought he'd lost forever. Too tight, too careful, too afraid to let go, because letting go was what he'd been doing since she was 6 years old, and he never wanted to do it again. They stood in the doorway for a long time. Renata watched from the hallway. The leader waited in the kitchen. Nobody interrupted. Some moments don't have a schedule. Now, if you think this is the ending, you're watching the wrong story. Because Evan Blackwood was still alive, still rich, and still the kind of man who doesn't accept losing. What he did from inside a holding cell proved that money doesn't stop being dangerous just because the person spending it is behind bars. Evans' lawyers moved first, 3 of them, $2,000 an hour. Within 48 hours, motion to dismiss the assault charge, motion to suppress the security footage, and a countersuit against Lily for defamation and theft of marital property. Theft of marital property, meaning herself. They also filed for emergency custody of the unborn child, describing Evan as a devoted father-to-be whose parental rights are being unlawfully terminated. Lily read the filings at the safe house. Her hands didn't shake. The old Lily would have trembled. The new Lily read with the cold clarity of a woman who'd stopped being afraid of paper. "He's suing me for leaving him," she said. "He's suing you for existing without his permission," Thomas corrected. "The custody filing is the dangerous one," the leader said. "If a judge grants even temporary custody rights, Evan gets access to you through the child. Visitation, communication, a legal reason to stay in your life. He can get custody from a cell. He's not in a cell. He posted bail, $10 million. He's in his Manhattan apartment with an ankle monitor and a legal team that's already filed 14 motions." Lily looked at Thomas. "You said you had evidence." 23 years of it. "I do." "Then use it." Thomas opened a briefcase he'd brought from a car nobody had seen arrive. Inside, a hard drive, 3 binders, and a sealed envelope marked DOJ, classified, Blackwood. "This is the original case file," Thomas said. "Every transaction, every shell company, every laundered dollar that built the Blackwood empire. Richard Blackwood's signature on documents that prove he used charitable foundations to funnel money from foreign accounts into domestic real estate. Construction contracts inflated by 300%, political donations structured to avoid reporting. And Evan? Evan continued the operation after Richard died. He's not just his father's heir, he's his father's successor. The wire fraud charges the feds filed are based on current transactions, but this file connects them to a 25-year pattern. It turns a financial crime into a RICO case. RICO. Racketeering. It means the entire enterprise, the company, the foundation, the properties, the accounts can be seized. Not fined, seized. Lily looked at the binders. 23 years of her father's life compressed into paper and data. "You gave up everything for this," she said. "I gave up you for this," Thomas said. "That was the price. And I've been waiting for the day the file became worth what it cost." The leader made the call that afternoon. The DOJ case, dormant since 2001, maintained in sealed records by a man who no longer officially existed, was reopened. The news broke 3 days later, not as a headline, as an earthquake. Blackwood Empire under federal RICO investigation. 25 years of alleged money laundering, fraud, and political corruption. Evan's face was on every screen. Not the polished version, the mugshot. Hair flat, no cufflinks. Eyes that looked like a man watching his own house burn. His legal team issued a statement. "Mr. Blackwood categorically denies all allegations and looks forward to clearing his name." His bail was revoked the same day. Flight risk. A judge looked at $10 million bail, an ankle monitor on a man worth $2.7 billion, and a private jet registered to a Cayman Islands shell company, and decided that the Manhattan apartment wasn't secure enough. Evan Blackwood was moved to a federal holding facility. No marble, no chandeliers, no staff. Tap-like if you've ever watched someone who thought they owned the world discover they couldn't even own the room they were standing in. Because what happened in that courtroom 4 months later was the moment Lily stopped being Evan's wife and started being Evan's evidence. The trial lasted 11 days. Lily testified on day 3. She entered the courtroom through a side door, not because she was hiding, but because the main entrance was blocked by cameras. She wore a simple dress, no jewelry, 8 months pregnant, which the prosecution hadn't planned for, but the jury couldn't stop looking at. Evan sat at the defense table. He'd lost weight. His suit still fit, his lawyers had made sure of that, but the man inside it had shrunk. His eyes found Lily immediately. That old look, ownership, warning, control. Lily looked back. And for the first time in their entire relationship, Evan looked away first. Mrs. Blackwood, the prosecutor began, can you describe the events of the night of October 14th? Lily described them. The slap, the marble hallway, the blood, the motorcade. She spoke the way the medic had taken her blood pressure, clinically, precisely, without drama. The facts were dramatic enough. He told me to smile tomorrow, Lily said. He told me I fell. He told the staff I was hormonal. And were you? I was bleeding on his floor. That's not a hormone. The courtroom rippled. Not laughter. Recognition. Evan's lead attorney cross-examined for 40 minutes. He questioned Lily's memory, her motives, her relationship with the federal agents. He implied she was a plant, a conspiracy, a troubled woman manipulated by her estranged father into destroying an innocent man. Isn't it true, the attorney said, leaning forward, that your father, Thomas Carter, has been building a vendetta against the Blackwood family for over 2 decades? My father has been building a case, Lily corrected. A vendetta is personal. A case is evidence. And you expect this jury to believe that Evan Blackwood married you as part of a conspiracy? That a billionaire targeted a waitress? Lily looked at the jury. 12 faces. I was a waitress in a diner on Route 12. Evan Blackwood walked in at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday. He'd never been there before. He came back every Wednesday for 3 months. He tipped $100 every time. She paused. Billionaires don't eat at roadside diners. They eat at places with chandeliers. He came to that diner because I was in it. That's speculation. It's a pattern. And your client's hard drive contains search records for the name Lillian Carter dating back 14 months before he walked through that door. The defense attorney looked at the judge. The judge looked at the prosecution. The prosecution introduced Exhibit 47, browser history from Evan's personal laptop, showing searches for Carter family, Thomas Carter DOJ, and Lillian Carter location, starting 18 months before the first dinner at the diner. Evan's face went white. His attorney requested a recess. Thomas testified on day 5. He entered through the main door because Thomas Carter was done with side exits. He described the original investigation, the shell companies, the threat against his daughter, the choice to disappear. Evan Blackwood married my daughter to find me, Thomas said. In doing so, he brought the one person who could identify the case file into the center of his operation, and he assaulted her in a house that was under federal surveillance. Under surveillance since when? Since the night he searched her name. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty. All counts. Wire fraud, money laundering, racketeering, domestic assault, witness intimidation. The sentencing came 3 weeks later. Evan stood before the judge in a suit his lawyers had pressed and a face that had run out of masks. Mr. Blackwood, the judge said, you inherited wealth, influence, and opportunity. You used all 3 to perpetuate a criminal enterprise, to conceal evidence of financial fraud, and to systematically abuse and isolate your wife. The court finds no mitigating factors. 22 years. No parole eligibility for 18. Evan's jaw worked. He looked at Livy, sitting in the gallery, hands on her stomach, 8 months and 3 weeks pregnant. He mouthed something. Lily couldn't read it, didn't want to. The marshals let him out. The courtroom door closed behind him with a sound that was nothing like the click of a safe, or the turn of a deadbolt, or the slam of a mansion door. It was just a door closing, and Lily was on the other side of it. The baby was born on a Tuesday, not in a mansion, not in a private suite arranged by a billionaire's assistant, in a public hospital, in a room with fluorescent lights and a curtain that didn't quite close, and a nurse named Maria who called everyone honey and meant it. A girl, 6 pounds 11 ounces, dark hair, loud. Lily held her and felt the world narrow to the exact size of the person in her arms. Thomas was in the waiting room. He'd asked if he could be in the room. Lily had said not yet. He'd nodded, because Thomas Carter understood that earning a place in his daughter's life meant waiting for the door to open, not pushing through it. He was learning that from her. Renata brought him in after. He stood at the edge of the bed and looked at his granddaughter, and his face did something Lily had never seen a face do. It broke and rebuilt at the same time. "She looks like you," he said. "She looks like herself." "What's her name?" Lily looked at the baby, the dark hair, the impossible smallness, the fists clenched like she was already ready to fight the world. "Carter," Lily said. "Her name is Carter." Thomas's eyes filled. He pressed his lips together so hard they disappeared. "You don't have to. It's not for you," Lily said. "It's for her. So she knows where she comes from. Not the mansion, not the marble, not the last name somebody gave me to own me." She looked at her daughter. "Carter, because that's who we were before anyone told us to be someone else." Thomas nodded, wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, sat down in the chair beside the bed, the plastic chair, the uncomfortable one, the one with no leather and no price tag. He sat there all night. 3 months later, Lily moved. Not far. A house on the edge of a town nobody had heard of, with a yard that needed work and a kitchen with countertops that weren't marble. She painted the walls herself, badly at first, then better. Thomas helped. He was better at painting than he was at conversation, which suited them both. The house had a porch. Lily sat on it every evening with Carter in her arms, watching the street do what streets do. Neighbors walking dogs, kids on bikes, a mail carrier who waved. Nobody knew who she was. Nobody knew the name Blackwood. Nobody looked at her and saw a headline or a victim or a billionaire's ex-wife. They saw a woman with a baby on a porch. That was enough. One evening, Thomas sat beside her. He'd been coming every weekend, building something. Not a case, not a file, just a relationship. Slow, careful. The way you build something when you know the foundation has to hold more weight than you can see. "Lily, yeah? I'm sorry. You've said that. I'll keep saying it. You don't have to. You just have to keep showing up." He nodded. Looked at Carter, asleep in Lily's arms, fist still clenched. "She's going to be a fighter," he said. "She already is. She survived her father before she was born." Thomas flinched at the word father. Both meanings hit him, the one who hurt and the one who left. "I'm going to be better," he said. Lily looked at him, the gray hair, the tired eyes, the hands that had carried a briefcase full of evidence for 23 years because it was the only way he knew how to hold his daughter. "You're here," she said. "That's where it starts." The porch was quiet. Carter slept. The street lights came on, one at a time, the way they do in small towns. Not all at once, but gradually, like the town was deciding, house by house, to push back against the dark. And in a room with no chandeliers, no marble, no locked safes and no chandeliered hallways, Lily held her daughter and felt the specific weight of a life that belonged to her. Not to Evan. Not to the name Blackwood. Not to anyone who had ever decided what she was worth based on what they could take from her. Hers. Small. Ordinary. Free. And for the first time, for the very first time since a slap echoed down a marble hallway and the line of black cars turned into a driveway, Lily didn't flinch at the sound. She just breathed. And Carter breathed with her. And that was the whole story.